He's a good person.
He's not a doctor. Your doctor is killing you. He's telling you all sorts of bad things. He is not passing on the information that you should be drinking bleach, which is what I said at the beginning. But the fake news, they won't report that. And the doctor is going to kill you. Wow, he has lost his mind. Is he crazy, or is it just the way he acts?
Is he crazy, or is that just the way he acts?
So the UK forecast for the next 5 days. Let's see if we can pull some good news out of the weather, yes?
Yes.
This evening, areas of rain across northwestern parts. And, I don't think they really needed to tell us that. It's going to be raining in Glasgow. It is always raining in Glasgow. I can check that while you wait. Yes, raining tonight and raining tomorrow and raining on Sunday and raining on Monday and raining on... Well, I shouldn't laugh, but it's going to be raining every day for the rest of your lives.
Affirmative.
But then you haven't got anything for dry weather, have you? I mean, what would you wear? So, raining in Glasgow, and the southeast is staying largely dry tonight, turning very mild. Wow. And wouldn't it be nice to end there? But we can't. Saturday, heavy rain and strong winds across most areas with gales and severe gales. When you haven't got a gale, you've got a severe gale in exposed parts.
Disgusting.
Oh. It will be very mild, becoming brighter. Outlook for Sunday to Tuesday. Further heavy rain and gales on Sunday. On Monday, brighter, colder, showerier. Showerier. Sunshine and showers on Tuesday. Do you want to know the long-range weather forecast for the whole of November?
No.
First half of the month, drier, brighter, settled. Many areas will be dry. Winds will fall, and there will be light for many. Not actual light, but the winds will be light. There's no light predicted, not for the next, what, should we say 5 months? 5 months of darkness. All because some dairy farmer in the north of Scotland doesn't like getting up in the dark. Oh, every year we go through this. Anyway, the first half of the month, drier, brighter, more settled. Many areas will be dry. Winds will fall. Overnight frosts and morning fog, especially in the south. Temperatures near normal, whatever that is. And for the last half of November, settled weather is likely to continue until late November. Dry conditions generally, especially for the south, with any spells of wet and windy weather, mostly confined to Glasgow. Towards the end of November, it will be autumnal, but a bit of rain, a bit of wind. But in early December, a return to settled, dry conditions is likely. Settled, dry conditions? We'll take it! This says, Philip emails, did you see that Bruce Springsteen has called for an exorcism at the White House?
Rock and roll!
Yeah, I'm with Bruce. Bruce. It must be a bit disconcerting. I mean, he knows what they're saying. It's very unlikely that a crowd would show up at a Bruce Springsteen concert and boo him, but it does sound like they're booing him.
Boo!
Bruce just sounds like booing. This text says, I will not. What does that mean? What will you not? Mark tweets, it's Halloween tomorrow. Will the kids be trick-or-treating or track and tracing? Well, if you read George Monbiot's column in the Guardian, then you will realise that they're track and tasting. What is it?
Contact tasting, testing, tracing. Forgive me. Contact tracing.
Give it up, Boris. You're never going to get it. Yeah, did you read that column in The Guardian, written by George Monbiot? God, alarming or what? No wonder we're screwing it all up. We've got kids running the system. It goes on a bit, but I'll give you a flavour of it later. That's something to look forward to, isn't it?
No.
And this says, why don't you run for Parliament? Well, I think I'm overqualified. Being as how I'm not entirely evil. You know, there's that. Let's have a first call in Southend. Chris.
Oh, good evening, Nicholas. Hello there. Pleasure to speak to you.
Yes.
I was going to say, I was going to say you were one of the few people to call this at LBC, and I think you have been, in retrospect, very proved right that really the government did want to go down the herd immunity route, but as you said, they bottled it because they really worried how good it would look to them politically. But
I'm not sure that was their plan. I thought that their plan wasn't necessarily herd immunity, because that implies that they'd thought about it. I thought that their plan was to just struggle through.
Well, we are struggling, but yeah. I mean, the thing is, but let me just put a major theory out there that I just want to kind of share with you. You know, this is not a conspiracy theory. I think it's more of a government mismanagement. Rather than a conspiracy.
Here comes a conspiracy theory. Yes.
Listen, if you remember back in March, we had Professor Dipstick, or Professor Ferguson, as people call him. He was the
that
guy
being
who...
his name, yes.
No, sorry, he should be called Professor Dipstick, I'm sorry, because he is. He was the guy who came on, and he said 500,000 would die from this virus. Now, the thing is, if I had a plumber come in and he quoted these £700 for a kitchen sink, I'd want to know, well, how do you come to that figure?
Yes.
But yet nobody in
£700 for a kitchen sink? What's it made out of? Gold?
Exactly. These are the questions I would ask. What I'm saying is that there was no analysis of how Professor Dipstick came to his conclusion of 500,000 people.
Well, he analysed it.
Well, yes, he analysed it, but nobody else analysed it.
Oh, nobody analysed his analysis. I get it, yeah.
But the thing is, look, here's what boils down. There's a very good article in the Sunday Times, which I think that all of your listeners should read. Now,
I'm not going to read it, if that's a help.
Well, it's a very long article. Even I didn't read it, although I read about 2/3 of it. Anyway, I think what has happened here, Nick, is that they have taken Professor Ferguson's modelling of 500,000 people, and the NHS, what they did was they started rationing out ICU beds, on the basis that, well, if you're over 60 or 70, if you're over 70, then you won't get priority over someone who's perhaps say 65 or 50, which is understandable. Now, you can adopt these measures when you've got a scarcity of ICU beds, but again,
can you skip to the part that's the conspiracy theory?
Well, this is what I'm saying. The conspiracy theory is, I think, that the long and short of it is the government put in these emergency measures and were denying people treatment of ICU when they didn't need to deny those people. But the trouble is, because they overestimated how serious this virus is, they're now trying
to double down, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
they're doubling down. They're trying to,
in order to save face, thousands must die. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm saying. But the thing is, look, as I said to you, again, I would suggest everyone to read this article on Sunday Times.
No, I'm certainly not going to do anything of the sort.
It's a very good analysis. I think what's happened is they overestimate the severity of virus.
Yeah, I know. You said that already. Saving face. We've been through this already.
Yeah. But as I say, so what they did was they rationed ICU beds.
Yes, I know. You said that.
Okay, well, fine. I always said that. Yes, no. But the thing I'm saying as well is that there's a guy called Dr. David Halpern back in March who said that he actually thought the policy of cocooning groups of people who are most vulnerable to coronavirus was a better strategy.
Of course. Testing and tracing is the same thing. Get people who are likely to have been exposed to it, or who might be, first in line to keel over from it, and protect them. Lock them inside. Throw away the key if necessary.
Well, that's what he suggested. He suggested cocooning the vulnerable, which I think would have been, well, a far more effective strategy than keeping fit, healthy people under lock and key. I mean, my God. Why the hell they felt the need to shut gyms? If you're vulnerable, why would you go to a gym?
Well, there's a lot of people who are vulnerable who go to a gym and they're making an effort. I mean, they may be, overweight, and that's the reason that they're going to a gym, and they should be commended for that.
Well, true, yeah, but what I'm saying, though, is again, if you're at a gym, most of you are spaced out a bit.
Oh, please. I can't believe that gyms opened at all. I mean, I went to a gym just the other day. I've never seen a place that seems more likely to pass on this invisible menace. Everyone's panting in there. It's true. Panting and grunting they are.
Well, they're probably panting because... But again, look, what I'm saying is, look, you know, for the vast majority, and again, it's backed up by another expert called Dr. John Lee, who's a pathologist. He has said for 98% of people, if they get it, they'll get it mildly. Now, we were told this back in March, and even Sir Patrick Vallance did say that you have to allow people to get the virus because it's not possible.
Yes. Can we just agree that I was right all along, and this is the biggest overreaction to anything in history? Let's just agree that I'm right.
Yes.
And can I just add as well, Nick, that I think, and trust me, the politicians, they're in for a rude awakening when all this comes to heat. And I'll tell you something as well, Nick.
No, they're not. Let me tell you this. They're not in for a rude awakening because they will... I bet you, the Conservative Party will win the next election because Labour is about to split in two. The people that would vote for them are going to be voting for either Labour or the Lib Dems or the Greenies. The same people who voted for the Conservatives this time round will vote for them because they will be promised the same thing, an enmity towards foreigners. Bingo,
well,
they've won another election. They're going to be in power forever. It's the gift that keeps on giving, attacking foreigners. Anyway, Chris, it's been, Morvan tweets, in my opinion, parents that allow their kids to go from door to door trick-or-treating are, quite frankly, bad parents. Well, yes. They must be parents that have never seen every film that's ever been made. Are you crazy? Mark says, I'm eating mushy peas on toast. Oh, God, that sounds awful. What did you want to do that for? And even ordinary peas on toast, bad enough. And Archie says, put the clocks forward 2 hours in winter and back 2 hours in the summer. Job done. Wow. That's nuts. I mean, I remember at this time of year, it's like all the energy is just drained out of me. It's only an hour, and yet it seems like jet lag. But no, Archie, it's a no from me. Let's have Westminster. Oh.
Good evening there, Nick, my old pal. How are you, friend?
God, I've been sideswiped. Yes, Ken.
Good to speak to you. Good to speak to you,
as brief
Nick.
as it will be. Go on.
Okay, but listen, we just heard about New Zealand now. They've legalised murder. Can you imagine it? A nation legalising self-murder by euthanasia.
Euthanasia. I would ordinarily disagree with such a policy, Ken, but in your case, I'll make an exception.
The devil has taken over the world, my friend.
It doesn't make much sense to me because they had two things to decide on. One was euthanasia and one was legalised marijuana. So it's okay to drink poison, but it's not okay to smoke a joint. It's okay to end your life because you're living in pain and misery, but it's not okay to improve that pain and stay alive. That's just nuts.
Well, here's a thought, Nick. There's three things to be legalised in the world. The first one is euthanasia, and New Zealand have set the example of unbelief. The second one, which will happen, will be the legalisation of drugs. And the third thing to be legalised is pedophilia.
Drugs are already legalised, Ken. What are you talking about?
I'm talking on a worldwide basis here, Nick. Now, the next thing to be legalised is pedophilia. Right. They will lower the age of consent.
Okay, well, certain organised religions will be doing a little happy clappy dance about that then, won't they? No. They are being the centre of paedophilia. Just read the news, Ken. Oh, these religious types. Please spare me the pain. Ein texts, not Rand, surely. Ein texts, Boris may not be able to say contact tracing, but he was able to say give a bob to save Big Ben's bong. And he got extra points for saying that in order. Well, you do get extra points.
If you get it in order, you get extra points.
Yeah, give a bob to save Big Ben's bong. Yeah, because that was the thing that people were most obsessed about. Flag waving. God, wasn't it great when we were just most obsessed about flag waving? And we were trying to prove who was the least traitorous of us all. competing with each other to wrap ourselves in the Union Jack. Oh, it's all about the fish. I'm still obsessed about fish. Oh, those were the good old days when the only thing that was on our minds was Brexit, which seems like small beer now, doesn't it? Seems like mushy peas on toast. Not much. Myro text, I need to know your final predictions for Tuesday with the orange blob. I believe that Donald Trump will lose, but stay in office. That's my prediction. I don't think he's going anywhere. And if it comes that the wave for Biden is so great that even he and the crooked charlatans that are propping him up can't wangle their way out of it, then he will still be in power for, 2 months? During which time, knowing what kind of a person he is, he will tear the country down. He will flail around like a 5-year-old having a fit and destroy everything. So he's not going to go away anytime soon. And even if, in the most unlikely circumstance, maybe somebody gets one of those darts that they shoot into a lion, just shoot him with one of those and drag him out by his feet. He's not going to go away forever. I bet, even in what would be for him the worst circumstance, that he leaves office as a one-term president, total loser. He'll run again 4 years later, or he will immediately start his campaign to win again and make a list of all the people he wants to get back at that have irked him in the meantime. God. 0345. The stuff that's going on is just mind-bending, isn't it? I mean, you really have to concentrate to not lose your mind. I'm trying not to let it get to me, but it's getting harder and harder with each passing day. Plus, the clocks have gone back and everything that goes with that. And now we're going to get another nationwide lockdown. Somebody said by Wednesday. Thank goodness I got a haircut. I had a sore tooth. One of my molars was giving me right jip at the beginning of the year. So I went to the dentist and she said, tricky. I think so. It's like a plumber coming around and sucking his teeth. Said, tricky. I don't want to do that. I'll send you to a specialist. And time was ticking on, and this virus was just making the news. This was back to the February, March point. And I think I was one of the last people to actually get to a specialist who could take my tooth out without removing half of my face with it. And I do remember sitting in the waiting room, and the receptionist was coming round with moist wipes and was cleaning door handles, which seemed alien to me at the time because nobody had really been talking about that. I thought, that's a bit over the top, isn't it? What are you doing that for? And the dentist himself was covered from head to foot. He looked like a Star Wars character. He was wearing so much PPE. And anyway, he yanked it out. Perfect result. Excellent work, that doctor. And I thought nothing more about it. And the entire country went into lockdown about the next week. So I was one of the last people through to get an actual dentist's visit. Today, the NHS called me up and said, that tooth that has been giving you trouble for the last 8 months, we're finally ready to take it out. God. So as far as they're concerned, because the message didn't get passed on, I have been in great pain for 8 months waiting for my tooth to get taken out. Only now, ready to do something about it. Truly, the NHS is safe in their hands. And if that's happened to me, then that must have happened to loads of people up and down the country. I mean, how many people have been in agonising pain because there's been something wrong with their teeth and they haven't been able to get it sorted? And that's just the thin end of it, of course. I mean, people have died because of this, because they haven't been able to go and see their doctors, because their operations have been cancelled, their consultants' appointments have vanished. This entire country has been repurposed to fight an invisible menace that kills almost nobody at all, compared to, for instance, Alzheimer's, or cancer, or alcohol, or tobacco, or any of these things that we just live with. We've been dragooned into fighting this one specific thing. I mean, if you wanted to save hundreds of thousands of lives a year, ban cigarettes tomorrow. Do we do that? No. Why? Because the government respects our personal choices. Well, those are dead people too, you know. But they're only some personal choices they respect. If you wanted to save tens of thousands of lives, every single year, year after year, ban alcohol. Do they? No. Why? Because they respect our personal choices. And we're about to lock the entire country down again, and no personal choices will be respected. In fact, if you break the rules, you will be fined, as they have fined tens of thousands of people already. Does any of this make any sense?
No.
I can't fathom it. The whole world's gone insane. I think that historians, and it won't take them too long, will look back at this time and think it's the biggest overreaction to anything in history. And I know that people will be shouting at the radio, "Oh, you Nazi, you've killed Granny." But lockdowns don't only have one result. They don't only save people, they kill people too. On a happier note, it's going to be milder for a few days. So there's that. Tim emails, mushy peas on toast sounds awful. However, I had pesto on toast yesterday and it's fantastic. Well, yeah, but that's sort of pasta. It's actually pizza. Pesto on toast is pizza. This anonymous text says, was that Ken I heard on your show? Have I been COVID dreaming? No, it was, yeah. Only for a brief period. And Terry says, what is Caller Chris talking about? Another bonkers Britain. Spelt wrong. He spelt Britain wrong. 0345 6060 973. East Yorkshire. Hello, Mike.
Hi, how are you?
Great, mate.
Great. So I was going to ask you about your dental situation, but the thing is, you've covered that one. How are your locks doing these days?
My what?
Locks.
Locks? Were you talking about my hair? I just got it cut.
No, I'm talking about getting locked out and trying to break.
Oh, no, I fooled once, not twice. No, I carry multiple keys on me now at all times. In fact, I've hung the key to the front door on the front door outside, so I'll never get locked out again.
Genius. Did you see the Punch and Judy show in Arizona earlier in the week?
In Arizona?
Yeah.
No.
Farage and Trump on the same...
Oh, yeah, I did see that a bit. Yeah, Donald Trump is the bravest person he's ever met.
but what I thought was great was that he said Farage is one of the most powerful people in Europe.
Yeah.
This is absolute tosh.
He's coming across the channel. All he can do is film them. How can he be the most powerful man in Europe if you can't stop some dinghies coming across the channel?
Right, 2 peas in a pod. They should be 2 peas in a jail.
Nigel Farage is not fit and proper to be in government.
Yeah, I can't believe it. And when he comes back, is he going to lock himself in for 14 days or whatever is the required amount?
I have no idea on that one.
Well, let's find out, shall we? Somebody should.
The other one that was quite horrific from the States was when, not this woman that he's just appointed to the Supreme Court, but the one before, who came out and said, we can't have the results of the election overturned by mail votes that are measured later.
Yeah.
Well, the result isn't in until the mail votes have been read.
Of course. You can't overturn a result until you've counted all the votes.
So, and the last point, if I can quickly, you were saying the Tories will get in next time. But what
Yes.
I will say to you is that if the Tories let the NHS get overrun and people can't get into hospital and thousands die as a result, they won't get in next time.
I bet they do. They will blame it on Jeremy Corbyn. They'll find some way of blaming everything on Jeremy Corbyn, or it'll be Tony Blair's fault, or some such thing, and they will shout louder about foreigners, and all of the people that voted for him last time will vote for him next time. Meanwhile, the rest of the country will be split between the Lib Dems and the Labour Party and the Greenies.
I spoke to the other thing is I spoke to Ian Dale, because I know a Tory backbencher, and I spoke to Ian Dale in July and said Boris was told in July by a group of backbenchers, not specifically the ERG, but based on the same lot, that if he went for a second national lockdown, the letters would go into the 1922 committee and he'd be gone. So there will be no national lockdown. So we're going to have to do it by stages, aren't we? Tier 3 here, Tier 3 there, till we're all in Tier 3, but it won't be a national lockdown.
Well, I bet it will be. And I bet the backbenchers will just get into line behind him, because he won the last election with a stonking majority, and that's what they care about more than anything else.
You're better informed than I am. I don't know anything.
But thanks a lot. Okay, cheers, mate. 0345 6060 973. They're not going to oust him now. I mean, the best policy would be, even if you are a member of the Conservative Party and you can't stand the dear leader, would be just wait for a while, and he will step into those concrete boots for you.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
no effort required on your part. He'll do it to himself. Karen texts, just to think what escapades you can get up to in lockdown. Locking yourself out, counting your cars, sanitising stuff. In lockdown again. Oh, my God. I mean, it could be a month. It could be all through Christmas and into next March. And then what? And then we'll come out and nothing will have changed. The virus will still be out there, and we'll start to catch it again, and then the relevant authorities will freak out, and then we'll have to go back inside again. In, out, no shaking it all about. Does anybody have a strategy?
There's no strategy. I have no strategy. There's zero strategy.
Zero strategy. That's what it sounds like to me. Right, here's a flavour of that George Monbiot article. Grip onto something firm, because you're not going to like it. Until a working vaccine is released and widely used, our best hope of controlling COVID-19 is testing and tracing and isolating people. Isn't that right, Boris?
Contact tasting, testing, tracing. Contact tracing.
Give it up, mate. Even after a vaccine is produced, test and trace will remain essential, as inoculation will not be completely effective or universally accepted. That's right. People aren't going to take it. I betcha. I mean, not everybody takes the flu vaccine, and that comes around every year. Why? Even if you could get one, people aren't going to take it. Isn't that amazing? This year of all years, you can't get a flu vaccine unless you're over 65 or close to death. You just can't get one. They've run out already. It's as though the government didn't look forward in their diary and realise that winter was coming up. Oh, gosh, November, who saw that coming? It's amazing what's happening. Anyway, George Monbiot says, today it's our only hope, testing and tracing, to preventing repeated lockdowns and other great interruptions to our lives. Yet the English system on which our freedoms depend is a total fiasco. The government has so far spent £12 billion on test and trace. Not million, as you might expect, but billion. £12 billion, which is a number that's so big I don't even know what it is. I couldn't write it down in numbers if you paid me. How many zeros is it? All of them, I think. £12 billion. How is that even possible? Where's the money gone? I mean, I really do hope that somebody is checking on this, don't you? I mean, there has to be something untoward happened here. How can you spend £12 billion on something that doesn't work? Anyway, he says, as a result of catastrophic mismanagement, it might as well have flushed this money down the toilet. To put this in context, he says, context. He says £12 billion is more than the entire general practice budget. As in, the amount of money we spend on GPs is less than the amount that they've spent on a test and trace system that doesn't work. To provide all of the children in need with free meals during the school holidays between now and next summer's term, which the government has dismissed as too expensive, would have cost about 120 million quid. In other words, 1% of the test and trace budget. But, no, that's too expensive. Presumably because to feed a hungry children wouldn't involve hiring hundreds of management consultants. He says, because so much about this essential programme has been shrouded in secrecy, which is an absolute scandal, the secrecy part is a scandal, probably covering up multiple scandals. He says it's not easy to see where the money has gone, but the breakdown of the system appears to result, at least in part, from its oversight by corporate executives, led by Dido Harding, with no relevant experience in public health and a track record of failure, rather than by professional public servants. You know, there is evidence in front of our eyeballs that if you set the system to local health professionals, then they do very, very well. If you give the system to people who have got no experience in doing anything like this, then, entirely predictably, they do really, really badly. So guess which route our government has taken? God, it's almost like they're trying to waste money. Well, not waste exactly, but take it from one place and put it in another. He says the government has created an opaque and unmanageable hybrid system of public and private provision in which favoured corporations have received vast contracts without competition, advertising, or even penalty clauses. That's amazing. Not even penalty clauses. We'll give you £100 million to do something that you have absolutely no experience of. And if you don't manage to do it, well, that's okay. Don't worry about it. See you at the bar. He says that isn't even the half of it. I've been talking to someone working on test and trace in a call centre subcontracted to Serco. Here's what this person told me, says George Monbiot. He says, until last week, the workers at the call centre were doing the simplest job in the tracing chain, calling those who have been identified as contacts of infected people and telling them to isolate themselves for 14 days, giving them some scripted advice and collecting a small amount of data. Blimey, I could do that. Easy. But, huge, giant, wobbling but, last week the call centre announced that all the workers on this contract were being upskilled. Instead of making these simple calls, they would now be calling infected patients and discovering all their contacts over the past fortnight. To use the official term, they have suddenly been promoted from level 3 call handlers to level 2 clinical contact caseworkers. But the workers at the call centre who have been upskilled to this level are mostly school leavers and students. What? With no relevant qualifications. While the job is officially advertised between £16.97 and £27.15 per hour, they're all being paid minimum wage, which means £6.45 for the 18 to 20-year-olds, which is most of them. 18 to 20. School leavers. Can you believe it? During the first hour of the day, 3 of the young tracers called people who had just lost someone they loved to COVID-19. The people they spoke to were in extreme distress. After these calls, all 3 tracers were distraught and crying and unable to work for the rest of the day. George Monbiot says, when I asked Serco to explain the decision to turn level 3 call centre workers into skilled contact tracers, it told him the instruction came from the government, so I should address my questions to the Department of Health and Social Care, who confirmed that it had made that decision. The department has made 2 striking claims, he says. Everyone who has taken on this role volunteered for it, and the level 2 job has been split in half. 2 initial calls are now made to each contact, one by an upskilled call centre worker and one by a qualified health professional who dispenses medical advice and decides whether or not to escalate complex cases. George Monbiot says, my contact flatly rejects both claims. They said, no, absolutely not. There wasn't any consultation. We were just told this is what we're doing. He says, what this represents without any public announcement is not only a radical de-skilling, but also a further transfer of work from the NHS to the private sector. Level 2 contact tracers were health professionals employed by the NHS. Now they're call centre workers employed by Serco and Cytel. Public sector clinicians are replaced with unqualified private sector workers on the minimum wage and eminently exploitable. Upon their judgments, our health, our freedoms, perhaps our very lives depend. School leavers. It's staggering what's going on. He says, while public health is in meltdown, Serco's shares are surging. Which is true, they're considering a dividend. And this is just what we can see, he says. We know that billions have been spent on untendered contracts with private corporations, but much of the money dispensed is so far untraceable. Isn't that incredible? It's been reported that of the pandemic spending by the Department of Health and Social Care, an estimated £3 billion is missing. £3 billion! At the same time, the NHS is so underfunded that it's now asking volunteers to fill critical positions. A recent series of advertisements called for applicants for the post of project manager, lead data warehouse developer and business analyst to work unpaid on contracts that would usually offer between £450 and £550 a day. He says, people ask me, is this a cock-up or a conspiracy? He says the correct answer is both. The government is using the pandemic to shift the boundaries between public and private provision, restructure public health and pass lucrative contracts to poorly qualified private companies. The inevitable result is a galactic cock-up. This is what you get from a government that values money above human life. And people will have read that to column and just to turn the page and thought, oh, cool, I wonder what they're going to be cooking on the baking show this weekend. I wonder whether they're going to have a same-sex partnership on the dancing programme.
Disgusting.
And stuff like that. Never mind, it's just life. Paul.
Sorry, Nick, could you just reconfirm those figures? 12 billion wasted on track and trace, and the NHS are offering or posting positions for volunteers for £450 a day?
Yes. A job that would ordinarily pay £450 a day, the NHS is in such dire straits that they're asking people to do it for nothing, while we've just disappeared £12 billion, not million, billion pounds on a test and trace system that doesn't work.
Right. What? Right. I don't discuss whether you're Conservative, Labour, Lib Dem, Greens. What on earth have we spent £12 billion on?
Some of it has gone on excellent management consultants.
Right. If someone wants to pay me half,
yes,
not in actual fact half, I'll work for a quarter of that a day.
Well, that's very generous of you. Do you know anything about health?
Yeah. Stay 2 metres away from everyone. Wear a face mask.
Yeah.
Keep your hands clean.
Yeah.
And enforce it.
Right.
It's that simple.
If that's all you know about health, you're hired.
Mr. Abbott, sorry. This, how can we waste 12 billion? How much did the furlough scheme cost?
Oh, that's not even part of this. And that's not necessarily wasted, but that doesn't even touch this.
No, that's the thing. I'm not saying that's been wasted. What I'm saying is, comparison to the furlough scheme, we've wasted 12 billion on track and trace.
Yeah.
Track and trace, the more people that are infected, the less effective it becomes.
Yes.
This is now...
It's bizarre the more people have got it, the less it seems to be able to tell who's got it. Yes. Also, it's the precise opposite of what you want.
Yeah, exactly. We've just wasted 12 billion on something that doesn't work. I'm not even going to the Garden Bridge or Yeah. But to me, this is your life, your family, my family.
Well, it's this country for the rest of all of our lives, because it's being knocked down as we speak because of this. Everything that we had based the rest of our lives on is being taken away from us, and in other countries it is patently not. I mean, okay, Germany is having a hard time of it at the moment, but up to this point, they've had a way better result than we have. South Korea is off the scale. Even China is having a fantastic time. In fact, I think China is the only country on earth whose economy is actually booming at the moment.
Wear a face mask, 2 metres distance. It needs to be enforced. I don't want to see another lockdown. I was lucky enough to work through lockdown. I was privileged to work through lockdown. But no one, where I live in South London, no one pays attention.
Oh, and see, no, I don't buy that. I think that the country has been particularly good. I mean, I go out, I see almost nobody at all without a mask indoors. I mean, there are certain individuals who want to make a big deal about it, and then I don't want to get into a fight with them. I just ignore them. And if that's the way they want to live their lives, then so be it. But you just swerve them, that's all. I think that we have been pliant to a greater extent than either I or the government could possibly have hoped for. And I think that perhaps there's certain individuals in government who are taking advantage of how pliable we are and how careful to follow the rules. It doesn't even cover it. We have actually embraced the rules to the point that some people want more rules. It's remarkable, really. But I don't think you can blame us, which is what, of course, the government is trying to do. It's nothing to do with us and our catastrophic handling of these affairs. It's all because you went out and drank in a pub. You stupid morons. Now we're going to have to lock you all down again. It's not us, it's them. Keep your eye on the ball. I hope that somebody is actually looking into where all this money is going, because it's beyond my comprehension how you can spend £12 billion on anything that's not... I've got no idea. What costs £12 billion? A rocket to the moon, I bet, is cheaper than that. Get Jeff Bezos on the phone, he'll explain it to us. But it just must go out in dribs and drabs, assuming that you define a drib or a drab in terms of something that's got 7 zeros on the end of it. One consulting group signed a £10 million deal to help the government set up and run its COVID test and trace system. Huh, well, that's nice. How's that going, by the way?
Oh, fabulous.
Its initial £10 million fee was determined by the so-called day rates of its staff, which ranged from £2,400 a day to £7,360 a day each. This was claimed with a straight face to be a generous discount from their normal fees. Wow. A 5-man team working on a specific area of the system has been earning £25,000 a day. 2 members of that unit commanded the top day rates of £7,360, while the remaining 3 received a comparatively modest £4,160. To put that in context, you could buy and import a ton of PPE for roughly the amount this one small team was billing the government every 48 hours. Taxpayers have effectively been obliged to pay more than £30,000 a week each for these management consultants. That's the equivalent to an annual salary of more than £1.5 million. These are the people that put together this COVID test and trace system. How's that going, by the way?
Oh, Fabulous.
One of the big four professional services firm was in on this as well. They had many as as many as 1,114 of its consultants working on the system at any one time. 1,114 people earning a day rate each of up to £2,360. Another firm was given £560,000 to design the, quotes, vision, purpose and narrative of the system. What does that mean? What? Give it a logo, you mean? It just goes on and on and on. It's absolutely incredible what's happening in this country at the moment. It's like it's like being in a sci-fi film. It's not a government, it's a smash and grab raid. And it can't be blamed on ineptitude. How can it? How can we it's our fault. How can we have voted for a government that's so inept that it has to employ people to do its own job? How is that possible? It's like employing me to do a radio show and then I subcontract the radio show to somebody else. Watford. Hello, Jason.
Oh, hello, Nick. Good to talk to you. First time caller.
Jason.
Basically, everyone's, like, including yourself, bashing this government. First of all, I know it's that horrible word, unprecedented times, but I mean,
I
really,
knew you were going
rewind,
to say that.
Yeah, well, okay. Mind reader. Rewind back to the beginning of when this kicked off. What would Labour have done any better than Boris Johnson and his government? I mean, to be fair, I really can't see how they would do any better.
Can I ask you a question about that, Jason?
Yes.
What's that got to do with anything?
Because you are constantly bashing Boris Johnson, the government.
But do you know why? Do you know why?
Yes, they're making lots of mistakes.
Because they are the government. What's the point of saying, oh, well, you're criticising the government, but what about Tony Blair? What's he done? Or Jeremy Corbyn? It's got nothing to do with them.
Right. At the end of the day, right,
oh, God.
Any government that's going to be in charge is going to make mistakes. They're not going to get it right all the time, are
they?
Yeah?
Mistakes. £12 billion on a world-beating test and trace system that doesn't work.
I admit that was a definite nose up there, okay? But, that's not Boris Johnson and his government. That is the team they employ, whatever they are, Serco. That's down to them.
No, it's down to the people that employed them.
So
it's down to the people that wrote the contracts, and it's down to the people that continue to write the contracts.
Well, I mean, I really can't see how much better a Labour government would do.
Yeah, can I ask you a question about that, Jason?
Yes, sure.
What's that got to do with it?
Well, because you keep criticising Boris Johnson and his government, how inept they are and everything, what they've done.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Labour government...
Right, but let me ask you a question about that. What's that got to do with it? We don't have a Labour government. Oh, my God, that's the ultimate what about? You know whose fault it is? Hillary Clinton. It's Hunter Biden's emails' fault. Who really hasn't stepped in and done his bit? Winston Churchill. Where's he been through all this? Jason, you're out of your mind. I can't stand it anymore. I'm on the edge. I'm like a cop in a US movie. I'm on the edge. Don't push me. Crazy Dog Lady tweets, where is Johnson? Have you seen him? Emojis special for you. Oh, that's a shocked emoji and a smiley emoji and a crying emoji. Like crying, laughing. God, I hate emojis. What are you, 12? Stop sending me emojis. Here's some more. Soon be Santa Christmas tree emojis. I've started with my decorations already. Well, I know that people are way ahead of you, actually. I mean, I think in September, I passed people who had Christmas trees lit in their front garden on the drive-in. I'm not kidding either. September it was. Blooming boiling it was outside, and they were decking the halls with the boughs of holly. Can't believe it. Mariam texts, where is this job fixing the £12 billion fudge up that I can do and be a disaster and also doesn't pay anything? What? That doesn't really make any sense, but, you know, it just fits right in with everything else that's happened this year. Crouch End. Hey, Ricky, you're so finely blown my mind. Hey, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky. Hello there.
Hello there.
Oh, yes, I'm online. Okay, then. So I'm all for change and all of that, and everybody thinks that they can do better, but in actual fact, they don't have a clue how life works, how things work.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
We all know that the government control the whole ship and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can't, as you said, had we vote for Labour, you know, I wish I'd found my pen earlier to write notes, but I hadn't. So now I'm winging it at the moment. But, you know, you voted for Conservative, you voted for Labour, you would have ended up with the same result.
No. What on earth makes you say that?
Well, it's
what evidence do you have to suggest that a different government would not have created a different result? I mean, Germany's created a different result. The government of South Korea has created a different result. The government of New Zealand has created a different result. The government of America has fashioned a different result. Each government has had a different result.
Fair point.
Do you seriously think the Labour Party would have spent £12 billion on management consultants telling it to do the job that they were elected to do?
And we would have come out even worse off. Yeah, I don't think you're winning. In a two-horse race, I don't think you're ever going to win. If you go to the bookies, are you ever going to win the race? No, you're not.
What race are you talking about, Ricky?
Yeah, I'm talking about the dogs, the horses, any sort of race that you want to bet on. You cannot back a winner.
Are you talking about me personally?
No, not you personally. I'm talking about the system. The system is designed to keep us all down.
Well, the betting is the house always wins. If you think you're going to walk into a casino and come out with money, well, then I have a genuine made-in-China Rolex watch I'd like to sell you. Yeah, why do you think their establishments are dripping with money? It's because the house always wins. Unless you're Donald Trump, in which case you're so inept as a business person that you can even lose money running a casino. I don't really get the point you're making, Ricky, but if your point is the same as the previous caller, that the government is above criticism because of the Labour Party, then that's just such a ridiculous argument. I can't even begin to... I've got zero patience for that. I mean, my patience is evaporating. I just can't take it anymore. I am on the edge. Don't push me, because I'm close to the edge.
Rock and roll!
Stu texts, maths again. Maths. Oh, that's really interesting.
Boring!
Maths, you say. If you put £1 in a jar every second, it would take 11 days to save £1 million. It would take 31 years to save £1 billion. To save £100 billion would take 3,100 years. Puts things into perspective, says Stu. Yeah, too much bleeping perspective. Kat says, the reason the government is encouraging children to go trick-and-treating is that they're hoping that sending them door-to-door begging for sweets will prevent them going hungry over the half-term holidays. That's a twofer. Yes. Yes, the government is throwing its full support behind Marcus Rashford's campaign. The government supports Marcus Rashford, up to, but not including, actually, supporting it. Liverpool, Isla.
Hiya. Like the big conglomerate, Nick, like
most of the world doesn't own most of the wealth. It's a small minority of people that owns most of the wealth of the world. And lots of people for decades now have not been able to make a substantial or even a reliable source of income due to the lack of facilities to work. And basically, have you heard of this global reset that is supposed to be underway? They're hoping to reset everything under these globalised...
well, I've heard the phrase, but then people with a tinfoil hat on will create a meaning to that phrase that doesn't necessarily exist.
Well, it does exist because, down south, you've got the docks open still down there. All this end of the country, the riverways are dead pools. There's nothing hardly ever comes in from day to day. A few ferries from, Norway and places like that, and a few
but
ferries.
Why are you suggesting that? But what's the suggestion that means?
Well, that is all dead pool area. There's no manpower supporting the security of the country alone. It's all dead easy access in for people just pouring in.
No, wait. So you're saying that the docks in the north of England are empty so that foreigners can come pouring in. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm just saying it makes it easier for them to access. Down even in Devon, all them areas where they used to do smuggling centuries ago. I mean, that's all easy access points anyway. But I'm just saying...
Like in Liverpool, you mean? The docks in Liverpool? For instance.
Well, the docks in Liverpool just don't exist hardly anymore. Even when they were open years ago, every man that went down there wasn't taken on.
Right.
It was bad,
Okay.
It was bad work ethics even then. Most of them were turned away after those that were touched on the shoulder.
Right, well, there's only so much work to go round. But are you saying that the docks have been deliberately run down in order that foreigners can come swarming in? Is that your position?
No, that's not my position at all, Nick.
I thought that's what you said.
My position is all these dead areas of the rivers and that are easy access points for people wanting to come in illegally.
Who is it that's wanting to will come into those access points?
That video on the telly, it was on the media everywhere, where there was a big raft landed on the beach with people eating their ice creams.
Do you seriously think that people are going to push off from Calais and then row all the way up to Liverpool before they land?
They were in a huge, big rubber dinghy that landed on the beach before anyone had time to react. They were gone. They were jumped off this raft and gone.
Yeah,
Underworld.
but where did they land? Where did they land?
I'm not sure what beach it was. It was somewhere down south.
Of course it was, because that's the nearest part to France. Nobody's going to skip by the south of England and go up to Liverpool to land.
Well, all I'm saying, Nick, is, ordinary people sitting on beaches can't control these situations. And what happens to these people when they come in? And they can't claim money, so they have to go underworld doing bad things.
Okay, so, all right, okay. So this is why it's the Conservative government will get in next time around, because they will have fans like Isla who demonises foreigners, because they're coming over here, they're swarming in, and it doesn't matter what the government does between now and then, they will just tell the same people the same thing, and everybody that disagrees with them, that thinks, well, maybe that's actually not what's ailing this nation, maybe its problems are deeper than that. They will split their vote between Labour and the Green Party and the Liberal Democrats, and people like Isla will vote for the Conservative Party, because the Conservatives will say, and will continue to say from now until then, that the problems with the country are the people beneath you on the ladder. Whereas the problems with the country are not the people beneath you, they're the people above you. You're half right. I thought you were going to say that over the last 50 years or so, 99% of the population have had no pay rise. And this is not just in this country, this is pretty much worldwide. It might not be 99, it might be 95 or 96%, something like that. Almost all of us have had no pay rise in real terms since about 1970. And in 1970, the pay of your average chief executive officer was about 40 times the average earner in those companies. Now, it's about 350 times, something like that. All of the money that has been created since then has gone to the top 1-2%. I mean, the top 10% have done relatively well, not that great. The top 5% have done pretty well. The top 1%'s earnings have just taken off like a rocket. Everybody else's have flatlined. It was at one level in real terms in the 1970s, and it's continued completely flat, parallel to the horizontal axis. While the top 1%'s earnings they've just gone vertically. I thought that was the point you were going to make, Isla, instead of some nonsense about ports being driven down and business driven out in order to facilitate the landing of damp foreigners. Never mind, I suppose I can't get everything, can I? Jim Tex, I bet you £12 billion that the people phoning in to defend the government are the exact same people who burst a blood vessel with rage when they get shortchanged by 10 pence. What? Poor Boris, why won't everyone leave him alone? I mean, it's not like him and his party were the ones running the country. Exactly. God, that was like 3 in a row on the Nicky Abbott show. That the problem with this country is not Boris Johnson and his merry band of fools. It's the Labour Party. It's their fault. It's staggering. They haven't been in power for 11 years, and everything is still their fault. It just blows my mind. I'm hoping that this is actually an hallucination. Am I hallucinating?
Groovy.
Wouldn't that be great if this was an hallucination?
Yowza.
Because you could come out of it eventually. I think I took the red pill instead of the blue one. Pauline says, I'm not very intelligent, but surely the reason why booze and fags aren't banned is because of the amount of revenue they bring in. I'm sure the amount of revenue that they bring in is equalled by the amount that they cost the NHS in treatment and the economy in general. I mean, how much money does the tax on cigarettes bring in? It can't be as much as it costs to treat people with cancer of the whatever. And all of the costs that go with that. People dying and, losing their businesses and etc. and so on. It can't be. But they don't ban booze and fags because people would start freaking out about it. But we're about to ban everything. And most of us are, oh yeah, well, that's good. Okay. Mm-hmm. Can you ban more? Lock people up. Punishment for miscreants. I do think that people are, they're just... It's not just me. People are on the edge. Borderline freaking out. Just barely keeping it together. Camel Hump tweets, why aren't all those people who are so outraged about our contributions to the EU now also outraged at the millions of taxpayers' money going to dodgy PPE contracts? Not a squeak. Funny that. Yes, it's because they were ideologically opposed to foreigners, not to misspending by the government that is ideologically opposed to foreigners. You see, you criticise Boris Johnson, and that means that you are also criticising everything he's ever said or done, everything that he means to you, and he means, of course, the getting out from under the evil influence of the European Union, the unelected officials. We don't want that. but we don't mind being run by unelected officials from private corporations. That's just fine. Yeah, as long as they're not, French. Tweets, these lockdown decisions are out of control. Sanity can now only be found through a high-powered telescope. Oh, that's funny. A listener with material. I'll let that one pass. Graham says, your caller Stu has his maths wrong. You can't get £1 million in a jar. Well, that is true. And Matthew says, £3 billion lost. That would have been enough for 75,000 return Royal train trips. We need to reassess our priorities. Yeah, you hear that, Chaz? Have you seen Donald Trump video with Nigel Farage as a baby? No, I have not. And neither do I want to. I'm thinking of having a nightmare just considering it. And finally, for the moment, Maria texts, have you tried mashed potato on toast, topped with Marmite, then put under the grill for a few minutes? Do you mean you top the toast with Marmite and then put the mashed potato on top? Because, I don't know how you would top mashed potato with Marmite. How would you spread it? Mashed potato on toast? That's madness. It's all the same food. I mean, you might as well have it with a side dish of pasta and rice. Not rasta and pies, because that's something else entirely.
Rock and roll!
But I am thinking about it. Mashed potato on toast topped with Marmite, then put it under the grill for a few minutes. Can I put cheese on top? Because then it would be sort of like a pizza. 0345 6060 973. Who's been waiting the longest? One moment, please. Let me just check. Be totally fair about this. Plumstead, Alexander.
Yes.
Yes.
How you doing?
All right, thanks.
So go ahead, ask me a question.
What do you want?
What do I want? I'd like for the people that are supposed to be getting the money to get the money.
Right.
You know, like when you make an arrangement, you keep your word. The most precious thing you have is your word.
Yeah. Well, my car is more precious than that, but anyway.
No, but what I mean is that your word is the only one who can take that away from you is you. So if you say you're going to do something, you got to do it.
Right.
Because if you don't, then in fact you have no value. And the people that are representing us are doing that in Europe and all of this. They make a promise and then they put somebody else there and that promise is broken. So they have to make up their mind. Is it them the boss or is it them the boss? From Colombia to Afghanistan, all these arrangements for all the people that are making money from this that don't exist. The common denominator of the moment we are in. We are in a time where we want to find each other in the heavens that don't exist because God don't exist.
Okay, well, as soon as you find yourself, you let me know straight away, all right? I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. And I suspect you don't either. Put it in a letter, Alexander. Pop it in the post. Thanks. 0345 6060 973. Does anybody have any idea what that was about?
No.
Can we talk about mashed potato on toast a little bit more?
Yes.
That does sound actually pretty good. Mashed potato on toast topped with Marmite. I'm going to add cheese to that. I think a very, very strong cheddar cheese might be nice, with maybe a dusting of Parmesan cheese on top of the cheddar cheese. Whack it under a grill for a few minutes, and bingo. I think I've just invented a new pizza. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Let's have Croydon. Gunter.
Gunter, hello.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've been hearing a lot of standards about how the lockdown's been going down. I'm actually quite curious as to what you think is acceptable with the lockdown situation.
What?
So, do you think that we should be locking down, or do you think that there are certain parts of the area that should be locking down, others that shouldn't? Do you think that it's a northern thing, or is this an entire country?
I think that if we do the same thing that we did last time and expect a different result, then we are quite clearly
Chaos.
out of our minds.
Right. However, we must also admit that when when stats start to rise, then obviously there must be a reason to be doing something different.
There obviously must be a reason to be doing something different.
Well, yeah, because obviously there would be a reason to be doing something different. The fact that you say it with a slow accent doesn't mean that there is anything different to what we are saying.
Right, okay. Do you understand that every word that you say is understandable in the English language? It's just that the order in which you're saying them means nothing at all. Somebody did tweet earlier on that that there is a full moon this evening. Is that true? Is there a full moon this
yes.
evening? There is, yeah. Okay, well, that answers a lot of questions that we might have had. A lot of questions answered in one go. Full moon. Not that there's any reason why that should actually make a difference, but it does seem to make a difference. Now, I don't know whether that's just that you associate full moon with crazy behaviour, and so every time you experience that during a full moon, you think, aha, that's the reason why, whereas if you'd experienced it on any other day, you would not have considered it. But it does seem to have an effect on people. But there's no real reason why, because, we create our own daytime by artificial means. It's only when we were all living in caves and when the full moon was out that you could lark about at night without, tripping over a dodo or whatever happened to be out there. But we take our light with us now, so the full moon should have no bearing on our behaviour. But it seems to do. Weird. Glenn texts, I don't know why you want to ban alcohol. It's one of the only things that's kept some of us sane these past few months. Believe me, Glenn, I do not want to ban alcohol. Booze, Emma says. It's just an example of the dichotomy that is evident here. I mean, some things kill large amounts of people year after year after year. You could set your watch by it. Tobacco and alcohol are the two most obvious ones. And yet we do absolutely nothing about it. Zero. Now, you'd think that if the government's position was we must save every life, which is what seems to be happening here, regardless of the cost, then they would not be selling cigarettes where you can also buy sweets. In fact, they wouldn't be selling cigarettes at all. It's not a small amount of people that get killed by cigarettes. It's millions and millions and millions and millions of people. And yet they do nothing. At all. I will put a couple of pictures of somebody's rotting teeth or whatever it is on a packet of fags, but you can still buy them. That makes no sense. Unless it's just, it's a personal liberty and freedom and you can make your own decisions about your own health. If that's the government's position, then I'm all on board. As long as it also applies to everything else that people might want to do. But it doesn't. Alcohol is the same. It causes no end of trouble. It costs the country untold amounts of money, billions probably. And not to mention the misery of people, having horrible diseases and dying. Junk food. I mean, there was a thing that came out just the other day about fat children. Nearly a quarter of children in England's reception classes, as in 5 years old, and a third of Year 6 pupils are now overweight or obese. What? A quarter of children in reception classes, that's 5, 6 years old, right? A quarter are already obese. Now, what's the reason for this? Is it that they are eating too many vegetables?
No.
No, it's because they're probably eating too much junk. And everything that goes with that, I mean, apart from anything else, being massively overweight is going to give you a negative result from this virus, much more so than if you were a healthy weight. What have they done about junk food? Anything at all? Have they locked the entire nation up for a month in a row in order to wean us off junk food? No. Have they removed alcohol from every outlet in order to protect our health and save lives? No. But with this thing, they've taken everything away. And continue to do so. And they're going to do it again. It just doesn't make any sense to me. That on the one hand, they are willing to live with millions of deaths as long as it is caused by certain things, but not tens of thousands of deaths if it's caused by something else. Does that make any sense? What's this?
Adipose, obviously.
What's that?
Oh, it's fraudulent Trump, the baby.
Oh, the baby thing. Right. Does it move? Is it a video? Or is it just a still image?
I can't hear you.
Okay. All right. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see either of them, either as individuals and particularly together. And I don't want to see it now. Or at any point in the future. Rob texts, how about a mashed potato sandwich? Ugh. That's disgusting. Crisps sandwich, though, on the other hand. So yummy. Speaking of junk food, I'm not recommending that you take it. You can think about it, but just don't eat it. Have a carrot. Simon says, I keep texting, but you never read them out, yet people who tweet seem to get theirs read out all the time. Can you explain how I tweet? Because I don't know how to do it, and the app doesn't explain either. It's kind of like a bottle of shampoo. They don't come with instructions, do they? Or you buy a new computer. How is a person who has never used a computer before, who buys a computer, supposed to figure out how to turn it on? Because there is no booklet of instructions that come with it. The instructions are on the internet. And you can't read the internet until you've figured out how to set up your computer. There's a hole in my bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. Yeah, the thing with tweeting is that it looks very, very simple, but there are things that are very, very complicated and they never explain how to do it. And there are some things that look just like a piece of cake, but I find impossible to figure out. Don't ask me what they are, because I can't remember. But there are some things that are just fiendishly difficult. And they change all the time. I don't know what... Well, I suppose it's like a supermarket. Well, it's got nothing to do with a supermarket. But you know, you go into a supermarket and you're very, very used to where things are, and then every now and again they'll switch everything about. That's so that that you don't get used to the layout. Because you will ignore certain aisles because you know that you think rather that there's nothing down there that you want. But if they change it about a bit, then you will come across something that perhaps you didn't know you wanted. And by that method, they'll extract more money out of you. But Twitter and Facebook, they just change things around every now and again because they just can't stop fiddling about. Emma says, my partner Dave turns 32 tomorrow. He is an avid listener, but he never texts in, instead expecting me to every time that we have something to say on your show. Please call him out for being a silent observer, but also for being a year older. Appreciate it, says Emma.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. And your partner, Dave. 32 tomorrow, on Halloween. Camberwell. Hello, Will.
Oh, good evening. I would like, if I may, share some sandwich thoughts. When I was a boy, my uncle showed me tomato ketchup and cheddar sandwiches, which have stayed with me ever since.
It's a pizza. That's a pizza.
Well, not heated up, but you can do that. But my flatmate, right, she's from Brasilia, lovely lady, and incidentally, she's itching to phone you because she agrees with you with a lot of your, should we call it, lockdown scepticism. But the other morning, she said, did I want her speciality sandwich? And what it was a bit of toast with avocado, an egg, some honey sprinkled in salt. And I sort of glanced and said, are you joking? I mean, that makes it sound really posh, but I had a bite, or I think maybe I had a whole thing, and it was actually quite nice.
How is the egg cooked?
It's kind of light fried.
Right.
So it's fried, but, soft fried, if that's the thing. And, avocado, egg, honey and salt. But anyway, that was
interesting, because the sweet and the salt at the same time, that's a pretty good combination. And the egg, I get that. I'm wavering about the avocado, because how would you stop it squirting out the edge?
So the avocado was kind of squished into a guacamole green paste thing. Right. That was basically it. All
See, if I ate that, it would squirt out the end and go all over me.
High risk manoeuvre.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
But the main thing I was thinking about tonight, Nick, and it's occurred to me a few times, I miss boring Conservative MPs. Growing up, which, I mean, I'm 39 now, but most of my life, an MP was somebody who came into your school or something, which is some boring, usually a bloke on the telly, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And in more modern times, I'm thinking of your David Gawks, Jeremy Hunt, I'll give you, although he's still around, isn't he? The Sajid Javids, and these were just solid people who were there boringly doing their thing. They weren't necessarily going to be on Have I Got News for You or that showy-offy stuff. They were just boringly getting on with their thing. They existed in, do you remember Labour? There was Liam Byrne, wasn't there? And there were those people, one of them was up in Manchester now, isn't he? Andy Burnham, those lot, that generation. They just got on with it and was solid. And getting to what we've got now, I will never forgive Boris Johnson for missing the 5 Cobra meetings. A Cobra bloody meeting. I'm not in the government, unlikely to ever be, but they are the top-notch thing you have to be at, aren't they?
It's if they hold one of those, it's an emergency by definition. But no, he was too busy sorting out his complicated love life and writing a book and just having a holiday, having a nice time.
And Dominic Raab probably came up and said, somebody was there, the Prime Minister was available on the end of a telephone.
Yeah, sure he was.
But, yeah, and this was the time we now know from the Donald Trump talks with that journalist, but Trump knew what was coming, didn't he, in late January, early Feb.
They all did.
The info was there for Boris.
Just couldn't be bothered. He had other things on his mind, like, himself.
No, exactly. And do you know what, though? Do you remember it came politically where when it was the old fuel protests around 2000? Which was in the news as all the people parking in the lorries outside of petrol stations, the refineries, and you think, that's not ever going to be anything. Next thing you know, no one's got any petrol.
Yeah.
But I used to live in Devon, and I had to run to Newton Abbot from where I lived, and go to the pub because I was just about 18 at the time, and it did feel like a crisis, but people came together, knocked their heads together, and it was solved in a few weeks. Okay, this is probably bigger than that, once every 100 years and stuff, but they just look very, very amateurish for all of these public school things and Oxbridge and that. They just seem very amateurish and very yes men. It's full of yes men, isn't it?
Well, he fired anybody that was a no man.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I agree.
This government has been formed in order to do one thing: to please people that voted for this fantasy Brexit land. And they are obviously inept at doing anything other than agreeing with the dear leader, because the whole point of the whole reason that he's there is because, sunny uplands, and we don't want to have our vacuum cleaners, the strength of them run by Europeans, and we want straight bananas, or whatever the hell it was that he promised us. And anybody now that disagrees with Boris Johnson on anything is admitting the potential that he is wrong about other things as well, i.e. Brexit. I think this is why people have called up so far this evening and have just been furiously defending him, without success, I'd have to say, using the argument, well, what about? Well, what about the Labour Party? What have they done? Or what would they have done in this position? Which is a ridiculous thing to say. And I think it's the fear that if they admit that Boris Johnson is not doing a good job with this, then they are also admitting the possibility that he might not do a good job with Brexit, or that he might have been, leading you up the garden path. Not everything that he said is going to come true. There are no sunny uplands. And that's the dream. That's what they're pinning their hopes on, that their life will get better after Brexit. And that, our fish will speak with a British accent and all that other guff that they go on about. If you admit that Boris Johnson fails with this, then you also admit that the whole Brexit fantasy might not come true either. That's the problem. The problem is that we have divided ourselves into...
Studio calls flashing up on the indicator.
Yes, let's get straight back into it. This is a call in Narberth. Jimmy.
Nick, how are you? That all right?
Yes, very good, thanks.
Do you want to kick it off, or shall I?
I've been kicking it off for 2 hours. You go ahead.
Yeah, I know that, mate, yeah. Difficult job, I dare say, to keep abreast of everything that's happening in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, we just heard of the terrible earthquake in Turkey, and oh dear, it's a world of woe and trouble. But there's hopes on the horizon, boy.
Is it?
Yeah, I think I haven't got my teeth in now, boy, so I can't say this word properly. The apocalypse. You know the original translation of that, do you?
Apocalypse.
Yeah.
What's the original translation?
Well, apparently the Hebrew scholars and what have you tell me, it means the lifting of the veil. So people on the planet will begin to see truth. And
Jimmy, this isn't a call about religion, is it?
Oh, my God, boy. Religion has to be done away with.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, at least we're on the same page.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about? Apocalypse is the lifting of the veil.
So I'm informed by Hebrew scholars. And
so it is a call about religion?
Eh?
What
no,
is it? What,
I'm not
okay,
calling
well,
about religion.
All right, well, what
I'm
point...
calling about Keir Starmer.
Oh, about Keir Starmer?
Yeah.
So Keir Starmer is the apocalypse?
Oh, come on, mate, give me a chance. Yeah, he's not the apocalypse.
Okay, so what is?
Keir Starmer is just another Tony Blair. He's been put in there to prevent socialism coming to the people. We all know what Blair did and how he ended up. And Starmer is there to prevent socialism coming. This is establishment.
What do you mean, prevent socialism from coming?
Say it again.
What are you talking about, Jimmy?
Well, Keir Starmer is not a socialist.
Right.
He's a career politician.
Yeah.
Right.
What are you expecting from the Labour Party? I mean, what does socialism mean to you?
Humanity.
Right, that's meaningless.
Is it?
Yes.
We are saying in Welsh, by chwarae we say. Do you know what that means?
Of course I don't.
It means fair play.
Right, well that's not socialism. That has precious little...
It's got to be, boy, it's got to be.
But what does that mean, socialism? You mean taking back the means of production?
The means of production, distribution, and exchange should be under the control of the people, not a few oligarchs.
But of the people, you mean the government, on behalf of the people?
No, I don't mean the government.
Well, it can't be the people.
people.
It can't be the people directly, because how would that work? You have to have the government running things on behalf of the people. But we've tried that already.
No,
well, they kind of tried it in Russia, and it didn't really work out very well.
No, okay. Look, you presented me with I haven't had too many sweats, so I don't think too quickly these days. But socialism, what does it mean?
I don't think you want to get hung up on socialism. A more equitable distribution of wealth might be a good idea. If we taxed wealth, not income, then we would be getting somewhere. But as we don't, and the people that could enact such a policy are the very ones that benefit from wealth not being taxed, then it's never going to happen. But it would be better if we did. I can't remember what the exact numbers are, so I'll make them up. Something like 97% of the country is owned by 1% of the population. It's something like that. Something absolutely off the scale, stupidly huge. And most of that wealth has, of course, been handed down for generations, hundreds of years, if not longer. It's completely unearned, and it's the same gilded people circulating in their same gilded circles, as they tend to circulate in circles. Around and around and around they go, and they build a wall around themselves, which is virtually impossible to penetrate. Unless you have so much money that you can just bulldoze your way in there. That's about the only way you can get in. But as for the rest of it, yes, the problem with the world at the moment, you are quite right, Jimmy, is an unequal distribution of wealth. Now, I'm not talking that everybody should get an equal share and that you should be paid the same if you sweep the roads and you are a professional footballer, for instance, because no good comes from that. But yes, wealth should be distributed more evenly. That seems indisputable to me. But don't get hung up on socialism because you are easily shot down. Because it doesn't really mean very much. People can just point to Russia and say, well, they tried that there, didn't they? Look at the state of it. Lintex, try bacon and marmalade sandwiches. Ooh, that sounds fantastic. It's like sweet and sour, she says. Bacon and marmalade sandwiches. Wow. I am definitely going to try that. I think the bacon would have to be really, really crispy. I mean, you couldn't have it fatty. It would have to be crispy. That sounds fantastic. Heather texts, we had a child in our school who was so large she couldn't jump at year 4. I felt sorry for her. Yeah, this story about fat kids. You're not supposed to say fat, are you? Well, that's if they're fat, say fat. I mean, denying it is not helping. Nearly a quarter of children in England's reception classes and more than a third of Year 6 pupils are now overweight or obese. Isn't that incredible? A third of Year 6, that's 11, right? A third are overweight or obese. The government report, this is a government report, found 21% of those in Year 6 were obese, up from a previous high of 20.2% the year before. A total of 35% of those aged 10 or 11 were classed as overweight or obese. Good grief, we got half of the country starving to death, and the other half unable to walk upstairs without running out of breath. For reception children, that is aged 4 and 5, the obesity rate has risen from 9.7 to 9.9. So that's the obesity rate. But overall, overweight is 25%. God. How? A quarter of children are massively overweight by the age of 5. How? And as the virus attacks the overweight, and that's not really good news for the future, because I bet their parents are overweight too. And even without the virus, you're leaving yourself wide open to all sorts of hideous diseases by being fat. You know, there was 27,465 amputations between 2015 and 2018 because of diabetes, for instance. And obesity is one of the main causes of diabetes. But you don't see those numbers. 27,465 amputations because of diabetes in 3 years. That's about 10,000 a year. But when do you ever hear about that? Never. No one talks about this. 1 in 4 people who have died in hospital in England following a diagnosis of coronavirus also had diabetes. 1 in 4. That's according to NHS England. But where's the nationwide to shut down of junk food outlets? There isn't one, because it's a personal choice thing. The government doesn't want to restrict your personal choice. But that argument's been blown out of the water by what they're doing now. Personal choice, personal freedom. What personal freedom? 13% of reception children, 4 and 5 years old, living in the most deprived areas were obese, compared to 6% of those living in the least deprived areas. I'm genuinely confused about this. 27% of Year 6 children living in the most deprived areas were obese, compared to 11% of those living in the least deprived areas. The World Cancer Research Fund's health promotion manager said every year this data on children's weight is released, and every year childhood overweight and obesity increases. It's going up, not down. This trend will not change unless our commitment to ending child obesity is driven by action from the government, the food industry and the public to make healthier food affordable and accessible to all. It's not a coincidence that obesity rates are twice as high in the most deprived areas compared to the least deprived. So says the World Cancer Research Fund's health promotion manager. And where's the lockdown for this? There isn't one. They said until we do that, until there's direct action by the government and the food industry and so on, obesity will remain high, increasing our children's risk of cancer in adulthood, and the obesity prevalence will remain highest among children living in the most deprived areas. With all the costs to the NHS, apart from the misery it causes and the people involved. But how can poor people afford to get fat? Because the same people that are using food banks and that the saintly Marcus Rashford is campaigning on behalf of are getting fat. How can you afford a burger and chips and not a vegetable soup made from actual real vegetables? I mean, I know on Twitter a while like this week, there was a series of tweets and comments showing the poor how to cook, which were ridiculed by right-wingers who are ideologically opposed to helping the poor, apart from anything else. But there's a truth in that, isn't it? How can you afford a huge bag of junk food that has no nutritional value and will leave you hungry after an hour, but you can't afford a bag of vegetables that you can make into a stew that will last you for days? How? And how can you claim ignorance of cooking when every other blooming show on TV is about cooking? It's mystifying. And yet, where's the government action? Where is the closing down of all junk food outlets? Doesn't happen because they don't want to restrict your personal choice. Why are cigarettes still sold? Why shouldn't they be banned? Because of the millions and millions of people that die because of them. They don't ban them because they don't want to restrict your personal choice, is the argument. Alcohol causes untold misery in society. Why aren't all alcohol outlets closed down for the benefit of our health, to save lives? They don't do it because they don't want to restrict your personal choice. And yet they're closing down the country for something that kills, 0. whatever it is, % of the people that get it. Most people get it, and they don't even know it. It is the biggest overreaction to anything in history. And the longer it goes on, the weirder it seems to me. This idea that you can only save lives by locking down is not true, because locking down also kills people. But anyway, what's the point? We're going down this tunnel, and there doesn't seem to be any light at the end of it. This text says, surely you could spread the Marmite with a spatula. What, on top of mashed potato? But it would be too wobbly. You need a firm base to spread Marmite. You're talking nonsense. Lewis tweets, cheap processed food full of rubbish is cheap. Yes. Yeah, cheap food is cheap. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. That is completely correct in every respect. Cheap processed food full of rubbish is cheap, and parents can fill their freezer for next to nothing. That's just not true. It isn't cheap. I mean, it makes you hungry for a start. You have a meal of junk and you're hungry shortly after, so you have to eat more food. And it is not cheap compared to vegetables. I mean, surely not. I ain't no cook, but I do know that you can make a vegetable stew for practically nothing at all. And it would be nutritious and delicious. It's not very hard. You just put it in a pot, chuck in a tin of tomatoes, and boil it up. What else do you need? Bit of bread to go with that? Lovely. Or you could spend the same money on a bag of junk from your local junk food retailer, and you'll be hungry again in an hour. Haringey. Hello, Ella.
Hi, Nick. Hi.
Ella.
You know, I've not actually met someone that I agree with word for word. Everything that you say, I completely agree with.
Everything?
Everything.
How about a fried egg and marmalade sandwich? No, not fried egg and marmalade. Actually, fried egg and jam sandwich is a thing. That's actually really nice. Have you tried that?
I give it a go.
You give it a go, right? Okay then.
No, honestly, and I know you were having a bit of a mental breakdown last week.
Yeah.
And I am having one this week. I don't know how much longer I can cope with. I mean, I can't say that I'm, really sort of frustrated with the 10 o'clock curfew. I mean, I'm at home. I enjoy being at home, so it doesn't really faze me that much. But it's the control that I feel the government sort of now have over us, and how they can, instill fear and manipulate us. And the moment somebody starts speaking about conspiracies, my brain switches off. I don't want to know.
Yeah. But however, yes, on the other hand, just to clarify, you don't literally mean that you're having a mental breakdown, do you? You just mean you're...
I'm not having.
Right. And neither did I. I just couldn't take it anymore. Well, see, I could take it anymore because I am taking it. But it's just like, oh my God, everything. It's like it's dark out. It's when is it ever going to stop raining? And so on. Just moan.
Stop whining.
Like that. But yeah, what were you going to say just then?
I mean, I'm a fairly resilient person. I know how to cope with, things that sort of happen in life. Exactly. Yeah. And I'm a very, very sort of headstrong person. And I can't even begin to imagine what all this, fear, instilling fear in people and all this change that's happening that we don't really have control over.
I think I think that's a big part of it. We're being sort of swept along on a tide of change, and we have absolutely no control over it.
Right.
I think that's going to start affecting people in odd ways. But not being bothered about the 10 o'clock curfew is particularly appropriate now that we're all going to be staying in anyway. I mean, it's dark out, it's cold out, and who wants to go out? That's sort of fine. Easier to be locked in when you don't want to go out than it is in the summertime.
Yeah. I mean, that's right. But to be fair, it's not just that. It's just the control they think they can just have on people's lives. And the fact that we don't actually have a say in all of this, it's our liberties and our rights just taken away. And the level of control that they now have. And I'm not asking for anyone to start a riot or anything.
No.
Let's just clarify that. But
the problem with giving up your rights and your freedoms is in the face of an emergency, and because of an emergency, the problem with that is that it's vanishingly unlikely they will give those rights back once the emergency has passed. So you will probably always have to sign in when you go into a pub. You'll have to give your details over when you go into a restaurant. You'll have to give your name, your address, your phone number, your and everything else into some database wherever you go from now till the end of time. I mean, it seems unlikely that will ever be rescinded, doesn't it? In that, because the virus isn't going to go away. The flu doesn't go away. It comes back every year. It seems quite likely that this will come back every year. And it also seems quite likely that something even worse is just around the corner. Because let's not forget, it's relatively easy to pass this thing on, but it is not very dangerous compared to recent other virus outbreaks like MERS and SARS, which killed about between 15 and 30% of the people that got it. Can you imagine if this thing killed 15 to 30% of the people that got it? And such a thing may be just around. I mean, I hate to ruin Christmas for you on just before Jesus' birthday, but this is this might be the prelude to something much worse. There's a happy thought. Bet you're glad you called now.
Not really.
Not really, no. No.
I'll feel better once I listen to the Nick Abbott Habit.
Yes, that's virus-free. And the thing that I do with Carol is mostly virus-free.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I look forward to that.
Yeah, so do I. I look forward to it too. She is a right laugh. All right, thanks a lot, Ella. Sorry I didn't cheer you up. It's just one of those days. Like I said at the beginning of the show, around this time of year, I get in a bit of a funk. I think I'm in a funk tonight. Not this kind of funk.
Rock and roll!
Not that kind of funk. Not a funk like that, but, it's just like... it's just sort of a... and added on to everything else that's going on, I think it's the... I sat yesterday and I thought, hey, I think it's probably about 8 o'clock. Maybe it's time to eat. But it wasn't 8, it was 6. I was 2 hours out. Normally, I'm very, very good at telling, just off the top of my head, what time it is. I'm usually very, very precise. Quite frequently, down to the minute. I don't know how I do it. I mean, I guess everybody has it in them. But this time of year, I'm way out. It is like jet lag. It is a bit like that. And, I'm just in a bit of a funk tonight. Get James Brown on the phone. He'll explain it to us. Sally says, I urge you to try a Marmite sandwich, a Marmite and sandwich spread sandwich on... I urge you to try a Marmite... This is written wrong. I'll take out the I think that's the thing that's tripping me up. I urge you to try Marmite and sandwich spread together on toast. Very wrong, yet so right. Well, from memory, sandwich spread is quite sweet, and Marmite's very, very salty, so I think the two might go together. On top of everything else, I'm losing my voice. Oh dear, never mind. Stu texts, obese kids are from poor families. This is why Boris Johnson has declined to provide school meals during the holidays. He doesn't want to be accused of adding to the obesity crisis. Yeah, okay. And Craig says, surely you must have had haggis on toast as a youngster. No, I most certainly did not. Haggis goes with tatties and neeps. No on toast. Shane texts, have you prepared a Biden button for your sound box yet? No. Well, he doesn't really do anything funny. I mean, that is the one thing that you could say positive about Donald Trump. I mean, he may be the world's most evil person, but at least he is funny. Sometimes unintentionally.
Oh, shut up!
Jim says, in light of the fact that we're seeing a lot of US Republican politicians on our TV screens at the moment, I had to turn the brightness down. Brightness down on my TV set because of the acute whiteness of their teeth. Yes. I think some of them overdo it just a little bit. Let's have Brentwood. Hello, David.
Yeah, hi Nick. Just about obesity in children. Before I started to say it's a blue moon tomorrow evening, so I think that's the reason why everybody's a bit frazzled. But
blue moon. That's 2 full moons in the same month, right?
That's it. Yes, but not that you'll be able to see it because it's going to be wet and miserable tomorrow evening. But I mean, just from my experience, I mean, I occasionally go out to McDonald's and. You see, especially during school holidays, you'll see, mothers with their children. It's just easy to take them out at McDonald's or even around the supermarkets. They'll get, I don't know, pizzas or spaghetti hoops and whatever. I mean, it's all processed, very sugary food, and I think kids they just get hooked on it. They crave it. But I don't think I happen to gone into the type 2 diabetes. I've fallen into it, and my blood sugars now was quite high at the moment. So I think it's a combination. I think there is definitely an increase of type 2 diabetes, and I think it's a combination of factors. Parents not cooking, as you say. It's very easy to cook vegetables and make nutritious meals, but I don't think people can be bothered, can they?
Well, it just seems incredible to me. I mean, I am a terrible cook, but I can cook a vegetable stew. It's easy. Chop up vegetables, which aren't that expensive, put a tin of tomatoes in there, and just boil them up for a while. And you got enough to feed you for 2 days. Put some meat in there, and it'll last you for ages.
No, I absolutely agree, but I think, I mean, when I was growing up school, we had domestic science. That was many, many years ago, but I think all that's gone out the window, isn't it? I just don't think, parents who've been growing up since, I don't know, the 80s, 90s, whenever, I mean, they've just never cooked, have they? I mean, most people don't even know how to cook.
But don't you think it's incredible that every other show on TV is about cooking?
Well, it is, yeah, but who do those shows appeal to? I think they appeal to sort of very middle-class families.
Do they?
Well, I think they do, yeah. I don't think they appeal so much to working. I don't wish to sort of delineate between, it doesn't sound good, but I think they are, I mean, you look at the ingredients, they're not cheap, are they? Some of the things they cook on there, they're not. I agree, you can cook it very cheaply, very nutritionally, but I don't know those programs are aimed at working class families, aren't they? They're aimed at sort of weight loss shopping families.
Well, I don't know. I mean, doesn't Jamie Oliver do, he does quick food, doesn't he? He doesn't do cheap food.
Yeah. No.
Well, there's
I
don't watch any of those TV shows, but if there is not a cheap food cookery show, and I'd be amazed if there wasn't, then that is a gap in the market you could drive a bus through.
Yeah, and I mean, there's loads of stuff available on YouTube. I mean, that shows you how to even
exactly. The internet is available.
Yeah. No, YouTube is very good for. I mean, if you want to learn how to poach an egg, or I mean. Unfortunately, I just think, the people, I just think, parents of, for want of a better term, working class are for them, it's more convenient to go to Iceland or wherever and get, cheap pizzas and processed food, which are sugary. And I think also when you add in the lack of exercise, it's like a double whammy, isn't it? I just think these kids go out and you see these kids with their parents, they obviously are obese. And I think, I just think that's why we have this problem. But, I speak to someone who likes to think they cook healthy meals, but I've become type 2 diabetic, but that's basically because I don't do any exercise. But,
right. Okay.
I have to live with that.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to.
No.
You can do something about it.
Well, I am. I'm changing my diet. I've got to because my I've got to cut out bread, potatoes, everything. So, yeah.
All right, good for you. I wish you all the best. Thanks a lot, David. 0345 6060 973. Steve tweets, Kit Kat sandwich. Fantastic. Just thinking about that. Kit Kat sandwich. It depends on the bread, I suppose. It would have to be completely tasteless, white sliced. Maybe toasted on one side, not both sides, because that would be disgusting, but toasted on one side so that it's a little bit soft, it's a little bit crispy. But don't put the Kit Kat sandwich in before you toast it. Although, maybe, if you toasted it under a grill, you could melt it. Wow. Doesn't that sound fantastic? Speaking of food, to increase your health. Adrian tweets, the best time for an appointment with a tooth problem is 2:30 by the... Uh-oh. Listener with material. Oh, no. Jill's texts, to get crispy bacon, put bacon in a cold pan and then put the heat on. Why? That doesn't make any sense. Unless it does, in which case I apologise. Islington, Adam.
Hello, good morning, Nick.
Adam.
Oh, I always smile when I listen to your show.
Even this one?
You're my favourite presenter.
Thanks.
So I was just telling your producer, thanks for getting me on. So I'm British Asian by ethnic background, and I wanted to share with you one of the... You asked a question, I'm surprised you don't know the answer to it, but when you're saying you don't get about how child obesity happens if you can cook certain good food, blah, 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 you're right to answer those questions, but let me just give you an insight, if I may, into Southeast Asian communities in East London, those who come from low socioeconomic positions where their parents don't earn a lot of money. I'm not exaggerating when I say to you, and I used to go to Whitechapel area quite a lot when I was younger, you can literally buy a chicken burger and chips for 99p. It's that cheap. Now, you can say, oh, but they can buy, and I would be with you, you can say, because I did this at university, I'd get wholemeal pasta, £1 for 1 kg, right? And then you can buy different sauces, and that will last you 7 days. But I realised something. My education improved of nutrition as I mixed, and I'm going to be frank, with middle-class people. Like, I used to think, like, why is it white middle-class people at uni, they just look healthy, everything about them is a bit different, and it's because... like, their standards for food is quite good. Because when I lived with them, they'd say to me, oh my God, they have to buy organic. And I used to think organic is a waste of money. But then I found out the amount of pesticides being fed to certain things.
No, I think you're going up the wrong alley there. I don't think organic has got anything to do with it, one way or the other.
No, I've gone off track for a moment. But okay, but I guess the main thing I'm trying to say to you is you have freedom to buy more healthy food if you've got the financial funds. I really think that.
Well, yes, of course, but that doesn't obviate the truth that vegetables are relatively cheap compared to the sort of satisfaction and the fullness that you feel from eating junk. I mean, I don't know how much a burger and chips cost. I'm sure that if you say it's £1.50, then that's true.
99p.
All right, but you won't feel very full for very long on anything that costs 99p from a junk food outlet. You just won't. On the other hand, if you cook up a pot of vegetable stew for the same amount of money, I'm sure you could feed yourself quite satisfactorily for 2 days.
Yes, but you're thinking nutritionally and to fill yourself. But maybe young people are feeling, what do I enjoy? Fried food, fatty food. I mean, there's so much links to addiction to sugar. You're aware of this? Like, they're
but we're not talking about teenagers and young adults. We're talking about children here who eat what mummy and daddy make for them.
Right, okay, sorry, then I've misunderstood, because I'm focusing on teenagers who go to school and rather than eating healthy.
But also, the point you made was that they like it more. Well, all right, but, some people like heroin. Doesn't mean to say that it's an acceptable lifestyle.
A dietitian once said to me, this is quite interesting, I didn't probe him about it, but he said to me that studies have also shown second-generation migrants tend to have worse diets when they come to a host country. I thought that was quite fascinating.
Why is that then? Because their parents don't cook anymore?
No, so for example, I'm first generation. So I'm first generation because my parents were migrants. And it's true, whenever I said me and my siblings wanted British food, it's always British junk food. It's not like a Sunday roast. It's always like burgers, chips, mash, beans, pies. Do you know what I mean? That kind of like fast food. And it does, what he said does fit. Like all my Asian mates who are first generation, we wouldn't go to a good, what are they called, gastro pubs, where you'd get a good meal. You'd go and get, just fast food.
Right, but a gastropub implies something that's going to cost you more. But if people just ate what made their brains spangle, then we'd all just be eating sweets.
Yeah, it's true. I agree with you. But I wanted to make the point that it's both education and financial clout. But you're not wrong. I know what you're saying, because vegetable isn't expensive.
Yeah, and I get what you mean about education, but it just rubs me up the wrong way, because look at Italy, for instance. The poorest people in Italy will eat will eat good food because Granny makes it, and there is no education other than just passing on the simplest of recipes from one generation to the next. How easy is it? Just put vegetables in a pot and boil them, crying out loud. Anyway, listen, Adam, go on.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, go on.
And then finally, what I wanted to say, it just dawned on me after hearing you that I feel as though I feel ashamed that these are the children in this country, and when kids are on free school meals, that means the parents are on low income. For the Conservative not to want to help that, I find really distasteful. But it's just dawned on me when they keep saying, "Oh, we'll give it to the council." Councils never want to give money to anyone.
The councils don't. The people. Yeah, councils don't have any money because their coffers have been drained because of lack of help from central government. You find it surprising that the Conservatives don't want to help poor people?
No, but
really,
no, you're right. But I just want to make the point: how can they not understand that if they're on free school meals, it means the parents are on low income? But they almost blame the poor for being poor. It's really hard to explain.
No, that's precisely what it is. We do it as a society. We blame those beneath us on the ladder for their own position, which is almost always down to luck. Yeah. But we don't like to admit that it's luck, because then that is the same as admitting that we could become one of those people. It's the same thing with people and disabilities. People think they may not express it, but there's a certain feeling amongst a lot of people about those with disabilities that, they must have done something wrong. I would never be so foolish as to, and they are different from me in a certain way, and by that method, they remove from their own consciousness the possibility of becoming one of those people. It's a sort of a demonization of those who have had less luck than you, thereby persuading yourself that luck doesn't actually have anything to do with it, but it has everything to do with it. Life is luck, or the lack of it.
Hello, Nick. There will be a short pause.
Yes.
I was just thinking, the way you can go into a McDonald's or a Burger King and get a meal for €1.50, it's a lot easier for people to get that instant hit of gratification rather than having to cook a meal. And I'm then thinking of the people who would find it difficult to afford, substantial meals. It might be easier while they're constantly working to try and make their household have some type of a living standard to be easier to give their child maybe £1.50 to go into their chippy after school rather than sitting in and having a substantial meal.
Yeah, no,
I think social media might have done that as well. In this case of instant gratification, I think everything nowadays is an instant hit of good vibes.
Well, if there's one thing that we don't want to wait for, it's instant gratification, because instant's not soon enough. Yeah. All right, thanks, Shane. 0345 6060 973. Let's have Camberwell. Paula.
Hello, Nick.
Paula.
Hi, I'm originally from Brazil, first time caller.
Ah, yes.
I'm a bit nervous, but
Me too. It's terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, but I am more sympathetic to your views on lockdown, and I think we are giving up our freedom without any resistance. And to me, lockdown is just a way to keep us all distracted from the bigger picture.
Oh, there's a bigger picture.
So, I believe so. I, from what I can see, I can hear my voice in the background, by the way. Socialism is overtaking the world. I can see very clearly what's happening in South America, which is very sad. Countries like Chile, Argentina, Venezuela. Well, Venezuela is old story. It's already, history of communism in the country. Brazil was on the verge of it, and thank God we have a good leader now. And why are you laughing?
You think Bolsonaro is a good leader?
Amazing. Whatever the media says about him is just...
is fake news. Right. Okay, one of those. Thanks a lot, Paula. All the best. I think there's somebody on 4chan who is missing you. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, the world is being overtaken by socialism because, the left are having a moment. Right. 0345 6060 973. Let's have Maidstone. Hello, Joan.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Yeah, I've corrected myself. Anyway, I'd like to talk about Christmas because everybody keeps banging on about it.
Yeah.
And, unrealistic expectations. Because what will probably happen, there's those golden olders thinking, oh, well, I haven't got long to go. I want to sit with my family around the family table. The youngsters there will be thinking, we don't really want our grandmother sitting here in case we infect her. There will be also the poor students coming back, thinking there'll be open arms to greet them.
Mm-hmm.
And all the people will be thinking they're coming from the hotbed of the viruses.
Yeah.
Kids will be in their little bubbles. And what I would like to go on to say is that the people who are actually doing stuff, working on the front line and all this, that and the other, why not everybody, instead of having unrealistic expectations, actually help those who are trying to make the best of what we've got?
How would we do that?
Caring and sharing in whatever form. So much money is wasted at Christmas, while people are actually dying on the streets and all this sort of thing.
That's right.
And people in the hospitals. There's so much that needs doing out there. And people there are buying all these baubles and all this sort of stuff.
Stop buying stuff you don't need and giving it to people that don't want it.
Well, I don't know about don't want it.
Well, there's a lot of people that receive a lot of stuff that they don't really want.
Oh,
they think, how can I get rid of this? And then they resell it on eBay.
I thought what you mean. I thought you meant people on the streets.
No.
Quite, because people are actually running themselves into debt. They're doing all sorts of things, buying big toys for their kids and goodness knows what. And what we've got to do is more or less get back to caring and sharing at Christmas. And this is why I'm phoning. We've got enough time to put it right.
Well,
and,
you've given us you've given us enough time to have a run up at it. It's not going to come at us out of the blue. You've given us a target, and we will miss it, Joan.
Yeah,
you understand that?
Yeah, because so many are doing this, but they are, the spectre of the, with Halloween and all that sort of thing, the spectre of the virus will be hanging over the family table.
Yeah.
Take it from me, because everybody will be expecting so much. Yet, but whenever there's fear there and all this, that and t'other, let's get back to the caring and the sharing and looking after each other.
Yeah, which is supposedly what Jesus' birthday is all about.
You're going to do your little dingle now.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, Joan. There you go. You see, a note of positivity right at the end. Why can't we just be nicer to each other? No chance. Yeah, I wouldn't think so. No, but it's a good idea to have. I just don't expect it to, actually go anywhere. But good effort, Joan.